Hey Photo World, I'm Rob Kruger, takeandtalkpics.com. This is episode 92 with wedding photographer BJ Aguado.
You know, that's always the struggle, is you're always constantly worried about like what other people think.
Today's featured guest is BJ Aguado. BJ, are you ready to share with Photo World today?
I am.
Awesome. BJ and his wife Jen run their photography business throughout the greater Chicagoland area. As a family man, BJ photographs families and weddings. He captures pure emotion through his photojournalistic and candid style. His business is definitely second to his family, but understanding the business side led him to his podcast, Shutter Sidekick. BJ, welcome to Take and Talk Pics.
What's going on, brother?
Not a whole lot. And actually, Photo World, I just want to let you know I didn't find BJ through... Well, it was through photography. I was a guest at a wedding in rare form, and he was one of the photographers that day, and it was just cool to get to know him then and find out he has a podcast, and we just got to talking, and I think I distracted you a little bit from your job, sorry. But, you know, it was cool getting to know you, and I'm glad we finally got you on the show. But can you share more about you and what you do with your business?
So, man, it's good we finally were able to hook up. But going back, like what you were saying, I do family and weddings. And I'd say right now it's about 50-50 as far as what I shoot. I started back in 2011. This was just a side hustle, as I think many of the folks, the photo world starts out. It's a side hustle, hobbyist, and then turned into something where you probably said to yourself, oh, I could probably charge people for this. And then you start charging some people slowly and slowly and slowly. And I started in 2011, and just this past February, I was able to quit my corporate job of 11 years to do this full time. So it's one of those where it's not gonna be an overnight thing. It takes a lot of hard work, as many of your photo world knows, and it's just a lot of hustle.
Yeah. When we're doing this, we have these moments of inspiration or these things that keep us going. Do you have a quote or a mantra to share with us that you live by?
So going back to what I said, it doesn't take overnight. Quote that I would say is, it takes 10 years to become an overnight success.
Nice.
And just think about it. I mean, it does. You know, you see all these big names and you're like, man, I wish I had this many weddings as them, or I wish I was able to do all these pictures and the way they edit, and it's so perfect and they're so lucky. And it's like, no, they really worked their butts off to get to where they're at. So yeah, it takes 10 years to become an overnight success.
It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. I mean, it feels like you're sprinting the whole time, but the end goal is a marathon. You got to go the whole distance to, you know, achieve it. And it really does work that way. I love that. It takes 10 years to be an overnight success. That's awesome.
Yeah.
But okay, let's dial it back. What started this inspiration? What made you say, I'm going to pick up a camera and start pursuing this, you know, as a sidepreneurial thing, or even jumping in full time? What started the inspiration of photography for you? My
kids. So my kids were young. I've got 3 kids, and right now my oldest is 15, and then I have an 11, and then I have a 7-year-old. So it was just a matter of, hey, this seems cool. Let's pick up a camera. And I think my first purchase was a Rebel XSI. So I did start in the digital world, and I started shooting there, and then it started becoming more and more addicting as far as looking for different glass to buy. And soon enough, I purchased a 40D, which to this day I still have, because that thing is the workhorse. And from there, I just moved up to the full frame world. But going back, it was the kids, shooting the kids, and then people seeing that I was starting to turn out great pictures or awesome pictures to them, obviously, right? And then I just started booking here and there.
Yeah.
Over the next couple of years, it just grew and grew and grew.
There are a lot of people who start out with that, where they just photograph their kids for the joy of it, and they go with a little bit higher grade camera than just their phone or something, you know, and they want to make a little bit more, and then start finding, hey, this is something I really enjoy doing, and I think there's a way to pursue it. And I think your story is a little different than some of theirs, because commonly it's more of females who do that, right? Who start out just photographing their kids, and then they they try to do it as a business, and maybe they weren't working or had the time to do that. So you were corporate and made the transition, which is a huge change. I mean, that's a big 180 to go from corporate America to creative, artists for the full-time job. But like when we're going through it, we're learning ups and downs, good and bad things. In this past year or so, when you were just going full-time for it, can you explain one time, one thing that happened where you went for it and it didn't work out according to plan? It was just a failure moment or a learning moment that you had to live through?
Oh, just one thing? You know what? One thing, well, okay. One thing I learned since quitting corporate, or even when it was still my side hustle, one thing that I learned was you have to test it. And it's okay to test. So if you have an idea as far as marketing or throwing out a special, or you want to try something new, test it out, because you won't know unless you actually put it to the test. If it doesn't work, then you move on to the next idea. But it's not cookie cutter. And that's the one thing that I learned is it's a lot of thinking outside the box, especially nowadays where social media is everywhere and everyone's on it. So you really have to think outside the box. But as far as a failure, it's just a matter of throwing out different promotions and not booking anything, because at this point in our lives, I really have to get the bookings. So I would say not getting any bookings is a failure at that moment, but it just gives me another thing to cross off my list to not try again. Or maybe it's all about timing. Maybe I tried it too late in the season, or I got to try it earlier next time. So it's just a matter of testing new ideas.
Yeah, these specials and things to kind of market your business and find them out. These testing things in business world, just the running a business, whether it's photography or not, we call that proof of concept. I mean, you have to. If you don't prove the concept, then there's no point in coming up with things, because you can have great ideas that unfold horribly. And then, then, great, that idea doesn't work. What else can I do? And it could be something that's fine-tuning the timing. But you have to be careful about it, because people get so hung up on the fact, like, I printed all these postcards and it was supposed to be a half-price session and I'm handing them out to anybody and everybody I see, and then all of a sudden, nobody's booking. Why did I waste my money on those postcards? What the heck? It's like, you waste your money to find out that maybe postcards are not your marketing strategy, So that's what it is. It's learning and growing. And, oh man, I love it. And that proof of concept, whether you call it that or testing or whatever you want to call it, Photo World, really something to consider every time you're doing something and when you're trying things. And, when you're going through your stuff, you have a workflow, a start to finish on how you communicate with clients, or you and your wife, Jen, as far as you told me earlier, she kind of handles the correspondence and everything. What's like the most important practice from start to finish that you guys have for working with a client?
Consistency. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. You have to be consistent, just like, because that's your brand. Just like all these other big name brands that you see everywhere, from the Walmarts to the McDonald's to, the Costco's. They're consistent with their branding. So no matter where you go, it's going to be the same thing. So you have to emulate that for your business as well, even though you're a small business owner. Your clients, because your hope is that they come back to you over and over again, right? And your hope is that they refer you many, many clients, and you want to make sure that they receive the same service and the same products and same quality as the person before, so that there's no inconsistency. Yes. So I would say consistency is the biggest thing.
Very much so. And you mentioned branding, and I am just going to pull this straight off of your podcast, the what is it, Shutter Sidekick, right? And you had an interview with Sal Sincata, and the word branding came up, and you guys went into pretty good detail. Can you briefly just clear that word up? Because I think it can be very confusing for Photo World out there. So clear it up for them, because I thought it was brilliant.
So branding, I would say branding is a lot of things. It's your image, it's your logo, it's the experience, it's what you give to them. And that's something I think that if people haven't really dived into to try to figure out, I think you need to figure that out, from how you speak to how you portray yourself on social media, to how you present your products. And I know that people are going to upgrade products year after year, but you need to try to keep the consistency so that your brand is what people see you as. So, for example, my brand is obviously just photography, everything photography. I want everyone to know me as someone that does photography. I was approached by a friend of mine saying, "Hey, you want to make extra money?" It fell along the lines of the whole insurance, selling insurance, life insurance on the side. And I was like, yeah, you know what? That's not how I want to be portrayed. That's not, because it'll create confusion for my clients. Because if they see that on social media, then they're going to be like, wait, are you a photographer or do you sell insurance now? So one thing that Sal did say as far as branding is find a way to stick out. You know, what they do is once someone books, they send them a bottle of wine. And we've been sending welcome packages as people book with us as well. So it's just things to make yourself stand out.
Yeah.
Not cookie cutter.
And that's awesome. And I really think, just in essence, what I've come up with for branding is if it affects the senses, it is your branding. You know, if it's something they can see, hear, touch, feel, whatever, then it is part of your branding. And you have to make sure there's a cohesive body there that all interacts and interweaves together to make it seem like when I see that flyer, that's, you know, BJ or that's Rob, whoever it is, that's them. You got to see that in the flyer. When you see a post on Facebook, hey, that's them. That's the way they speak. That's the way they use their words. You can tell in the inflection of the words here. That's them. And every little thing comes together.
Even when they edit, even when you edit your pictures, you know, it's fun to try new ways of editing. But I would say pick a style. You don't have to stick with it forever, but you know, if you're going to do selective coloring, which is the worst example ever, you know, do it if that's what your target market is looking for. If you want more of a clean edit, then stick to the clean edit. But I think a big thing of this is when people see your work, you kind of want them to say, "Oh, that was shot by BJ Aguado," you know, and that's a good feeling to have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and when we're going through this, I'm going to actually skip a couple questions because I think the really good answer of consistency and this branding and just keeping everything together and tight would fall into these same questions. So I'm going to skip over, you know, what would lead to growth and success because that just makes sense, keeping it consistent. But let's jump ahead to the aha moment, this time when you came up with that one idea that really started to shift things in a whole different direction. And I'm sure there's been more than one, but pull out one story for us that really made sense of this big clicking light bulb moment for you.
So, as I said, I was a solopreneur I still am, but I've been doing it as a side hustle since 2011, and it's pretty much been me. My wife was in pharmacy school, and she recently graduated. So, again, a lot of it was me doing the whole photography thing. Well, last year, I was like, well, why don't we just market ourselves as a husband and wife team? You know, she would come with me on weddings and she'd be my second shooter if she was available. Otherwise, I'd find other second shooters. Well, last year I was like, hey, let's just try this out. Again, test it out. Proof of concept. Mm-hmm. And let's see if we can market this. And sure enough, we booked right off the bat within, I would say, 3 or 4 months, 9 weddings as a husband and wife. And that right there was kind of like, boom, that's how we have to do it. Because, and I know not a lot of people can relate to this story or can be in this position, but it worked for us because we were able to play the bad cop, good cop role. You know, she was really dead on serious, not serious, but she was really serious, focused on the conversation. And I'm over here like, let's go grab a drink. You know what I mean? So I like to mess around. I like to joke around, which is how you interact with your clients. But she was always there to reel me back in, and the couples were able to see that, and they were able to relate to that. And that right there was like our big turning point. So over the past couple of months, I actually revamped the website to put more of us in there as a husband and wife versus just me as the main shooter.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then I think it does open up a little bit broader scope for people to relate to you, because then it's like if they vibe with your personality, great. if not as much, and it's more so your wife's personality, great. They're getting a piece of that from both sides, and then there's a good balance because one can play against the other in a positive way and really keep a good flow to things and kind of the interaction, how the clients are feeling. So what you're telling me is I need to go out and get married to some other photographer or something, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Awesome.
It'll make it easy.
I don't know if it'll make it easier. I think it works for you when I see other people who are, it's two artists coming together. It doesn't always work together. Sometimes they play into one another and they do different things, but it doesn't really always work together. So you got to find your strategy and what works for you. So I like that that's what clicked for you guys and made it happen and seemed to like change everything because it was more relatable for these new couples who want to get married. What's better than another married couple to help them out with it? So I think that's pretty awesome.
And just to add a little side note on that, Jennifer, she really wasn't into photography when we first started out. Mm-hmm. So as she came out more and more, she was able to see and feel how fun it was to interact with the couples and see them on their big wedding day. And I think that's what got her more into shooting and learning how to shoot. And now she's loving it. She knows, we have a flow down. We were talking about workflows earlier, and we have a workflow when weddings come, and she's loving it. So it's pretty awesome that it worked out that way.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. So when we're going through this, we get advice everywhere, left and right, friends, family, even the people we don't like have something to say to us, right? What's the best advice that you've ever received during your career so far? Even into your corporate career, just any great advice that just stood out and has stuck with you.
I would say the best advice I received was don't stress over things you cannot control, because that will just eat away at you and it'll put you in a position where you can't think creatively and all you're worrying about is things you can't control. So move on from it, get over it, however way you do it, and keep trucking along.
It's really scary to relinquish control of a situation, even if it's not that you're giving it up to somebody else, but just letting it out of your own mind. Photo world, I get it. It's so hard to be waiting on edge for this response to an email or, being there to find out if, oh my gosh, I think something happened with my picture that day. Did it? By the time you have to get home and find out, that's when you get your answer. Don't worry about it. You have to just move forward, because if you stay stuck in that moment, that's it. You're stuck. You can't get on with anything. So that's genius. You have to, keep it going. Don't get stuck in those moments, in those bad times that are freaking you out. If you can't control it, get over it. Exactly.
Move on.
Just like we're going to do here. So if you had to start it over, if you had to go back and you're going to relaunch your entire business and say, you know what, I want to be a photographer. I want to start a business in this. What do you do first? What's the first thing you get out to do?
I pull out the yellow pages if people still do that, and I start making phone calls to local businesses, because that's who will help me get my name out and about. I would see what a simple question: how can I help you? I'm a local photographer looking to expand. How can I help you?
Yeah. That's a great, simple, short answer. How do you start? I just do it. I just start,
You just start. Pick the
flip
phone,
to that number and go.
Right. Bring it back old school. Everyone is so tied up on texting and texting, and pick up the phone, start making connections, go out and start meeting people and go out to different events, go join your local chamber of commerce. It's getting your face out there. As long as people aren't going to know you're there unless you tell them, unless you make them aware that you're there.
Right.
So I guess you can look at it as a way of marketing. Marketing only creates awareness. So you have to create awareness that you're out there so that people know to think of you.
A sad story, photo world. When you start out trying to be a photographer, if you're just going to jump right into it, no one cares. Not a single person. They really don't, because they don't know who you are. They don't know what you're capable of. They don't know if it's worth their while, if it fits into their needs. They don't have the information yet. So if nobody cares, you don't have to shove it down their throats, but introduce them to the option to care.
Can I add one more note on that one, Rob?
Yes, sir.
So another piece that really hit me and I came to the reality that this isn't really true, that saying where if you build it, they will come.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you build it, they will not come. You have to put the work in. Just because you have a nice fancy website, you have a nice camera, you take great pictures, they won't come. They will not come. You have to take the initiative and you have to take the first step. That's me on my soapbox right there.
No, it's fine. I mean, it's like you can build plenty of things that people would never know about, It's amazing when you find out about a huge website, like this. I was looking for somebody to maybe edit some photos, and somebody told me about this website where you can go and post it there and people will bid on the job and see what they can do. And I was like, this thing's enormous. How long has this been around? I've never heard of it. Like, that's crazy. But seriously, it happens all the time. We're not all informed constantly on everything that's going on. So yeah, if you build it, doesn't mean people are going to show up. It means there's potential, but you have to push that driving force for that potential.
Exactly.
So we use these different things, our mobile device, these different social media apps. Do you have an app or an internet resource that you think Photo World could benefit from knowing about for bettering their business?
So I'm all about automation, especially with social media. I use Hootsuite a lot, and that's good. That allows me to pretty much set and forget all of my social media posts to Twitter, to my Facebook page, to my Facebook fan page. You can hook up Instagram into there now. Instagram does not, or it won't allow you to post. It won't allow the system to post for you, but it'll remind you when it's ready to post or what you scheduled, and then you can just go into Instagram and post it. There's also another app for Instagram called Latergram that I've used as well, and that does the same thing where you can schedule all of your posts for when you want it to go out and what time and what day, and then it'll send you a notification on your phone saying, all right, your post is ready to be posted. So all you have to do is go into Instagram and paste what the comment was that you initially put in, and you hit post, and then it's there. So it's pretty simple.
Yes, Hootsuite is good. I tried using that. I found another app that I like a little bit more for what I'm doing, and it's called Every Post. But it's the same concept. You can connect it to a bunch of different social media and then have it schedule out different posts for you. So that way you're posting, not actually doing it. You did it all for an hour, 30, 40 different posts, and you can set it up when it needs to go, and you're good for a couple days. It's crazy. So
Definitely.
It's totally worth it, and it kind of keeps you, like you said, automated, where your voice is going out there when you're not really taking the time to do it and setting it aside to do so. It's just pre-recorded or pre-done. So that's pretty smart, and I love it. And I don't think anybody's mentioned Hootsuite before. It's a great app. So Photo World, check that out.
Just imagine having to go in every day or even thinking and reminding yourself, all right, at 12 o'clock, I got to put a new post. I mean, that would take so much brain power. Mm-hmm. Work smarter, not harder.
Amen. I love it. Work smarter, not harder. So you're a digital age photographer. You started with Canon Rebel, picking that up and learning on the digital photography. Can you name a couple photographers that you were inspired by in your earlier portion of your career?
Oh, man. So I would say as far as technique and style, hands down, Jerry Guionis. He is an Australian-based photographer. And he is also he's part of a husband and wife team. Him and his wife, Melissa, they run the business. And they're based out of Australia, but they also have a house here in the States. And he comes to the States fairly frequently. And so he shoots a lot in the States and worldwide pretty much. But he was more of my inspiration for technique and style. And then I would say Sal Sankata, just for the business aspect. He takes great photos as well, but business-wise, he's a smart guy. He knows what he needs to do to get himself out there and to run a successful business.
Two great photographers, wedding-specific photographers. For the images and the business. The combination would just floor you if you look into both of them. And I don't know if they teach together. I know both of them do workshops and seminars, and they're keynoting all over the place, but I don't know if they've ever taught together. They should really partner up and just get a crash course into weddings. It'd be crazy.
I think so. I think it'd be an awesome, Morning you do style, afternoon you do business.
Yeah. And that's what we should be doing every day in our own businesses, right? Just work on our photography and then work in the business at night when other people are done with their jobs and they can interact with
Exactly.
you. So
Exactly.
when we're shooting, yes, we need the camera and there are a few other things we always have in our bag. What's one piece of gear that you can just definitely not live without?
70 to 200, 2.8, hands down. That thing is
Yes.
so versatile. Yeah, that thing is so versatile, and the bokeh on it is just cream, and it's butter, and it's all good, and you just want to marry it.
Right. Photo world, you want a portrait lens? It's there. You want a telephoto lens? It's there. You want a solid sharp 2.8? It's there. Not a lot
Oh,
of distortion. It's a beautiful lens. I
there.
did 3 family portraits this weekend and I used a 24 to 70 for a few pictures. Everything else was the
70.
7200. It's just
Oh,
so easy to work with that.
hands down.
So we're going through things. We're always trying to expand and make things bigger, better. Maybe it's your podcast and what you're doing with that, but can you tell us about a recent or an upcoming project that you have in the works that you're really excited about?
Like what I was saying before, go local. So I've been reaching out to a lot of local businesses and seeing how I could help them. And for example, a buddy of mine, they own a local donut shop that is big in the city that I live in. And I called him up. I said, "Hey, how can I help you?" And I have an idea. I have some ideas also. Maybe we can get together and touch base. And he was like, "Well, he's running the business, so you can meet me either at 6 o'clock in the morning when it's not too busy, or you can meet me at night when I'm making donuts." I'm like, "What?" So I was like, "You know what? I'm not a morning person. I'm going to meet you at night." So about midnight, I go to the donut shop, and him, his dad, and his buddy, they're like cranking it out. They are making fresh donuts for the next day. And I'm like, wow, I didn't know that they do that, first of all. And so I'm like, hey, do you mind if I just start shooting? So he said, go for it. And I just did some behind the scenes type shots. And I'm going to end up giving it to him so he can use it for whatever marketing he needs so that he can show to his customers the true side of a small business. And they don't get shipments in of donuts every morning to just hand out. This is all made fresh. So I've been doing that and calling up other local businesses. How can I help you? And I think that's going to be my project in the off season to see how many businesses I can hook up with. No matter what city you're in, there's going to be local businesses that
Yeah.
you can team up with and start networking with. So hit them up, give them a call.
Right. I mean, people think that business to business correspondence is only a corporate thing. It's like, no, if you're a photographer running a small business or even a big business as a photographer, there are other businesses with similar shape and size. Like you can work with them too. And maybe it's not your cup of tea or whatever that you're really interested in, but hey, does it hurt to try something? Probably not. So find out. Go out there, photo world, just get your face out there, name out there, and offer help. Don't ask for money. Don't ask for a job. Offer help. That'll be a huge help to you just going with that approach.
And I think that's the biggest, and I like how you said that, Rob, because I think that's the biggest thing is you don't go in there asking for business. You don't go in there asking for anything. You want this to be about them. You want this to be the start of creating a long lasting relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that whole teaching a man to fish. It's like you're teaching them that your photography can do something for them.
Exactly.
And if it can, then great. They're going to call you when it makes sense for their business again. So, man, maybe that's it. Maybe it's not. But the one parting piece of guidance that you can share with Photo World, let us know that one parting piece of guidance. What would it be?
Oh, I keep talking about networking and local business, but I think the biggest thing right now, especially for new photographers or even established photographers, is when it comes to social media, don't worry about the likes. Don't worry about the number of hearts you get when you post images or when you post a blog or what have you, because I think we all get sucked into this world of the more likes I get on my picture, the more hearts I get, the more relevant I am to the world. And it's totally not true. If you get one like, hey, that's great, but don't dwell on it and don't say maybe that picture wasn't strong enough or what have you. Just keep cranking it out and forget forget the number of likes, forget the number of hearts. So I would say that's my biggest piece is, on top of everything we have spoken about, forget all that. Forget how people feel about the picture you post at that moment. Just keep your hustle, keep that consistency going, and eventually someone's going to take notice.
It's not a popularity contest, right?
Exactly. It's not. But a lot of us, I'm guilty for it. We make it like that sometimes.
I mean, photo world, we all have that feeling where it's like we want to be rich or famous or a combination of both. We all want to be rock stars, especially in America. That's kind of just the whole vibe of all these reality TV shows. Like, we're just bombarded with the idea that we should all be rock stars. And the truth is, you can be, just not overnight. Take your time with it and work your way into it. And I think that circles back from what you were first starting us out with, BJ, of just, going on that marathon and pursuing it one step at a time. You can be an overnight success, but it takes about 10 years. I love it.
Exactly. And have fun.
Go ahead.
Have fun. Don't forget why you started.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Can you share with us, with Photo World out there, just where we can reach you, where we can get a hold of what you're doing and follow along, whether it be your website or social media, just where we can find you?
Cool, man. Yeah, you can find me on Facebook, my fan page, BJ Aguado Photography. And that's Aguado, Aguado, and then just BJ. And then Instagram, I'm on BJ A Photos. And yeah, you can see my images there and become a fan. And thanks, Rob, man. You're doing something good. You're giving a lot of great advice and you're talking to a lot of awesome people. So I think that's an awesome thing that you're doing, giving back.
Well, thank you for being here today. And I'll have all those links, your social media and your website and blog and everything, even your podcast on the show notes page over at takingtalkpics.com. Just type BJ in the search bar, Photo World, and you will find it right there. But BJ, I cannot thank you enough for your time today in sharing such great value. Photo World thanks you and happy shooting.
Anytime. Thanks.